I actually got an aftermarket set, and these are splines. We're back on the Forenza. Thanks for watching D2 Wrenchworks and DIY. Last you have seen on this, the head is off and pretty much nothing left inside of there. The one thing we do have left to do is the water pump. I have a really nice Gates kit right here, and this comes with our timing belt, our water pump, the two timing belt idlers, and the little pulleys that sit up top on the motor mount, as well as a really nice new tensioner. Figure you don't really need to cheap out on something as nice as this, especially you don't want to go back and do the water pump twice, and this is a really nice unit. You can actually feel the resistance in it. It feels much higher quality than the cheaper stuff you feel. That's pretty much it for that. It has a nice little yellow sticker you don't want to forget too. Whenever you're nice and done, a service sticker. Good quality kit, nice thick belt. Got some good firmness to it. So that will be our one thing we absolutely have to do, as well as get all of this coolant out. It is so important to get all of this coolant out. All right, now to remove our water pump, I got some little cardboard and fashioned a funnel. It is kind of hard to not make a big mess. You can see the water pump right here. And we have 1, 2, 3 of these 6mm bolts. Get you a better shot right here. See all 3 of those, and you can see his little try to fashion it down all the way to the end here because I don't have any space. My jack stand's on the way down here, so that should work. Let's go ahead and take out that water pump right now. All right, we have all the bolts removed. Now you want to try to whack the side of this pulley or the top of it. If you have a head gasket replacement like I do, these are usually stuck in here pretty good. Usually the seal around it gets pretty hot, I'm guessing. Our little funnel down there worked pretty good. Quick tip, right after I made my fancy little funnel, I went and bought one of these little pan adapters. People use them for transmission pan removal and stuff like that. Makes a big difference when it comes to saving a mess. You know, you don't want to clean it all up. I'll show you here. And this is my really small pan, and this thing over the top of it makes it absolutely massive now. Great buy, they're only about 25 bucks. You can find this in my description. And you can see, we got to clean all that up in there. You can see exactly why these get stuck. Also the pitting, because of the wrong coolant. Running theme here. Now, something we definitely don't want to forget to do is clean this up, and you want to put it side by side with your other pump and just make sure, because between the 2003, I believe it is, or maybe it's 2004, and the years after, there's slight changes in the engine. I actually ordered the wrong timing belt kit for this to begin with, or head gasket kit for this to begin with, because I ordered the wrong year. So, because this one's a slightly older one. So we'll check that out right now. So we're gonna look at the 2 of these, make sure everything looks nice and smooth. And you wanna take note, oops. So you wanna take note, this little flange, you wanna install it in the correct position. I'll show you that when we put it all together. But these very much so look like the same exact water pumps. So, on to installation. Oh yeah, it's pretty gnarly in there. Got a good light on it, you can really see. Gonna have to get the brush in there, the little wire brush, and scrub it all up and clean it. So let's get to work. All right, so these little brushes, they're kind of hard when it's really rusty and quite a mess like we have on our water pump here. I ended up going back through it with a slightly larger, it's not huge, but like a grill brush that you use when you're grilling. This thing is super, super stiff and it cleaned everything up really easy. I wasn't able to show you this stuff because the size of the tool and everything, there's no room in the corner over here for me to really scrape it and show you, but it's the same thing as I was showing earlier. And lastly, I was able to clean all the rough, like pitted up coolant that you could see in the top of the housing of the water pump with this straight blade. Let me open this up. And that's what this guy looks like right here. Really nice and rigid, and you can get it in all the cracks, and this is pretty small, as you can see, you know, fits in my hand real easy. So a few things you should definitely pick up. You can really see much cleaner in here. The one thing we're most worried about is this little crevice right here, this L-shaped crevice. That's where the O-ring will sit in, so you want to make sure that that's nice and cleaned. Now time to install it. Put the pump in, you're going to notice this little O-ring seal here that goes inside. It's on, but the problem is when you go to move the pump like this, it just falls into your hand. What we'll do is just to tack it up and lubricate it a little bit. Just use a little bit of Vaseline here. You don't need all big and globby. I'm just going to pinch the rest off with my glove and scrape it back into the container here. There you go, that looks good. Now put this on the water pump and its little groove here it has. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this tab at the top here will be somewhere around, I'd say 10 or 11 o'clock, and your weep hole right here where my thumb is will be up and down at 12 o'clock. And you can see the gasket's still on there, nice and good. Now before we put our bolts in here, just oops, hard to do this through the camera lens. A little bit of blue Loctite there. All right, now all three of the bolts are in. We're going to torque them down at first to 9 foot-pounds, and then the final torque is 18 foot-pounds. All right, all installed. For the coolant, this mini vac pump, it's around $45, somewhere around there, $50 maybe. It is super nice. Has a little open and close valve here. It comes with this nice singular hose that you can attach a separate hose to, and also has a cap. But my plan is to shove this into the engine block as well as into the actual heater hose. I want to get the heater core drained the best I can. What I will actually be doing just for the heck of it, the head is kind of pitted, but I'll get onto that later. It's just not a great situation using the wrong coolant in this. It's a terrible idea cheaping out. So I will be sucking out the most I can, and then after I get everything out of there, I will go into the block as well. Once I get that done, I will just run straight distilled water for like the first little bit. I'm gonna do an oil change once it's running. Now we'll flush the coolant all over again. And the stupid heater core. This is how bad this crap is. The wrong coolant here. You can actually see that it's literally eroding away the lip of the heater core. While I'm here, I might just go ahead and replace these heater core hoses too. Actually, scratch that. I have already placed an order for them and they are on the way. I'm replacing all of them. You'll notice when you get to me cleaning the head here shortly, there's a lot of pitting on the coolant jackets and where the thermostat housing is. It's a mess, so you want to get that crap out of there. This is a great buy though, super nice to have. Great to extract and great to flush with. It's a very nice tool, must have for this job. Next, this is basically about just getting small projects out of the way, organizing, making everything much easier to put together once you're already ready to go. So I have repaired this spark plug coil pack here. It was quite broken on the end. It was actually completely not even there. And it pretty much looks the same. I figure like the mounting angle and all that's pretty even. I threw a little coat of paint on there to make it all look nice and fairly decent. No point in buying something from a junkyard when this one works perfectly fine, only has 100,000 miles. Now is also the perfect time for you to get your head bolts soaked. These are Fel Pro ones with the nice washers on them. I'll just leave them in until probably tomorrow. when I'm ready to put this all together. These have a T55 Torx I mentioned earlier. This is a much nicer tool than what I had the last time. It's kind of annoying to have to use a small extension and a crappy little shorter T55 Torx because that's really all you ever find. So this is nice to have the Torx sticks on here that will just easy peasy go right in there, no problem. Tighten it all up real easy. Another thing I want to do, I have a Gates tensioner for the belt, and this is actually right here next to where the water pump and timing belt and all that is. So it's a great time to go ahead and knock that out. This is super nice and tight. The other one I have on there is completely rusty and pretty loose, so just go ahead and get that crap out of there. There's no point in just, if I'm going to do all this work with a new belt included on top of the timing belt and water pump, to not go ahead and do this too. All right, while we're over here, this is super easy to get right here in this spot, right next to where we're at with the water pump. Just 2 bolts, they're 12 millimeter. One is gonna be right at 12 o'clock, and the other one's gonna be directly from the bottom. We're gonna have to go under the wheel here, so let's get ready to do that right now. Well, I made a oopsies here. I did not realize my camera cut off while I was putting my gloves on. Here's a quick screenshot. You can see I'll draw an arrow to the top bolt. You can get to this using a short 12 millimeter, super easy. All right, I have developed a cool little way to get to the bottom bolt here, and I will show you the issue. You could see this little pokey bit here. This actually pokes through to the other extent of when it's like fully sprung over and it's held in that position. And this would be the upright bolt we just took off, so it's out of the way, because to the bottom bolt you have this stupid power steering pump, and you don't want to mess with it because it's another huge mount on the engine right there. We ain't got time for that. I don't want to deal with all that. So what I've devised here is a 15 millimeter wrench turned to hold it out of the way. It is, you can see the bolt down there right behind my pulley here. It is out of the way, and I have to clamp some vice grips here to hold it. That's why I couldn't film this. It's like impossible to do this because I'm in the way. But it is holding it torqued over. Very similar to how this is. It's not quite as far over because it's about impossible to do. I don't have anywhere else to vice grip it or a long enough wrench. It actually is barely reaching here as it is, but that's enough to get us going, and I'll show you on the bottom what it looks like. All right, and so our bolt is right there, and we're going to try to get that with a long 12 millimeter. All right, once you got this little guy broken loose a few turns like I just did, you have to kind of switch back and forth between a socket and a ratchet unless you got a really tiny cut down wrench. I don't. But once you get the little bolt or wrench here that I had holding it sideways out of the way, it's much looser. We are done on the bottom there. You can see I already have my wrench in here. You can actually switch up to the top to get this bottom bolt. Because this bolt is in such a tight, odd angle, it's very easy to keep dropping the wrench here. Use your second hand to hold the bottom of the wrench in like I am here. If you have a ratcheting wrench, this is going to be a lifesaver. There you go. Sounds good, right? All right, time to put in the new one. Let's toss this. Remember, the pin goes down. And get your first bolt, clean it off, throw just a little bit of blue Loctite on this. I'm not really sure the torque, so I'm just going to put it on tight. Lifting it from the bottom is the best idea, and then try to thread with your free hand the top bolt in. All right, bottom bolt all clean. Put some Loctite on it. And we're gonna have to go from the bottom for this one. All right, I already got our bottom bolt threaded in here a little bit. And now, because we have so much more space, with that pin being inside, you could be able to just reach this with either a long one, you see a short one has a little bit of space here, or a bendy socket. Really, you should be able to get in there with most anything. All right, let's see how the long one looks. It is, maybe that'll work. I got a pretty skinny socket there, or ratchet. Let's see. Yeah, that would work. And you can see right here, the round part of the socket, there's just enough in the gap because it's twisted with that pin. The hard part before, you couldn't reach a ratchet wrench or a socket in there. All right, that's pretty tight. All right, that's over 18 foot-pounds, so that should be fine. That's what the water pump's at with similar sized bolts. There you go, that's done. Looks a lot nicer in there too, even though it's a little greasy. Before we get started on the intake manifold here, there is a intake sensor that uses a single E10 torque spit, which is going to look like this. We're gonna go ahead and get that out. Gives you a good little access hole to try to shoot it directly through the throttle body, down out the runners. But yeah, you can see just how much of a mess it is in here, right here. Let's see if I can turn the brightness up even. I mean, it really isn't doing much. It is literally just a black hole of oil down there. It's so hard to get a good shot on it because it's so freaking dark. You can see how caked up it is. Got to get all that out. Yeah, you can see how nasty this is. Just wiggle it back and forth to try to free it from its little ring. Got tight little O-ring set up there. Don't forget your plug. Put it all back together. Put it to the side for later. Alright, so actually, because this is so easy to remove the 4 bolts on the throttle body right here, it made me wonder, oh wow, the oil flowing out of me just moving it. I did check the Felpro thing, and it does come with what must be a throttle body gasket, so we're going to pull that off to make it cleaning much easier. And these are 4 10mm bolts here. It is literally caked on right here. And you could get a razor blade and get chunks of it off. Alright, back to cleaning we go. Okay, we are on the last part of the video here, but unfortunately this is the most tedious. Everything is a nightmare from the oil system being pressurized. We have to do a lot of cleaning before we want to get the block all assembled. You want to have everything all nice and tidy. Because the oil is going to be so deep and spread throughout on the intake manifold, you really just want to make sure you take your time here. Absolutely make sure you put on a respirator. If you're spraying tons of this brake fluid like I am, I made sure I did. And it's really just a slow process here. You could see probably within like 15 to 20 minutes you're going to start noticing actual aluminum showing on the inside and not just hordes of oil caked in. But you do have to keep grinding and going into the ports, and it is a long, deep cleaning process, but it will pay off in the long run. So I have basically a 3-step process here. What I can't get with just your basic scrub brush, I try to get with a flat razor. What I can't get with a flat razor, I will try to get with a green little scrub brush, you'll see. And then lastly, I haven't shown this, if none of these work, you can use a carbide scraper. I will be using this in the block part, and I will use it to finalize any sort of hard parts I can't get. But do not fret if it doesn't come out 100% perfect. We are not looking for a shiny, pretty surface. We are looking for something for gaskets to stick to. So we are just trying to take off unnecessary pitting. We don't want to remove any unnecessary material. So definitely don't use any sort of roll-lock or disc wheel or Dremel, none of this stuff. Just stick to the good old hand-fashion cleaning like I am here, and it'll come out great, as you can see. Looks awesome. Alright, I can only show you so much of this cleaning, so let's go ahead and get to the end. Now is a perfect time, since we are already soaking our head bolts for over 24 hours, to go ahead and paint your block really quick. You also want to make sure to cover up your catalytic converter, the J turn it makes with the exhaust underneath, plug up the hole to the exhaust manifold, all of this. You don't want all this burning off later, but I already did that. If you have a northern vehicle like me, it is not going to look so hot like it does right now. Hit it with some quick wire brush, tape off whatever you need. I just slapped some cardboard and some heavy weight over the top of the block, and that actually worked fabulous. So give it some quick old Krylon spray. Make it look a little better. Why not? Alright, got some cardboard, some heavy stuff on top, so I'll just weight it down. Make sure I don't get any paint on the actual decking surface. And we got it cleaned up pretty good in here. I'll go ahead and spray some black paint on there, cleaned it all off with brake fluid, let it dry and all, so now time to paint it. Alright, as you can see here, we got the block painted. I painted that bracket down there because it was silver and it was already getting overspray. Now I still got to do the block prep, which is going to be the next video, but looks good enough. One black color, I'm pleased, no more rust. And that's the end of part 3. I have everything here for our next part of the video, where we basically get the head ready to slap on after the little heater hose and hoses, bits and bobs there. This is everything you'll need to prepare the blocking surface, which is a pretty technical and important video. You want the best mating surface, of course, that you can possibly have for your head. So that will be the next part, and man, once the head is on, it's just going to fly together. Of course, you just always find a bunch of mini projects when you're doing a big project like this, and it's best to just go ahead and do things like the hoses and, you know, drain it out and all this other stuff that takes a few extra steps along the way, but they are very important. So with that, I'd like to say thanks for watching, guys. If you want to support us on Patreon, you could do that. I'd really appreciate that. You could also support us here on YouTube memberships, 2 different kinds you could check out. And that's pretty much it, guys. Next video is going to be dropping here really soon. Like I said, it's going to be flying together. We want to get the old Forenza running. It's our best car with AC too, so the 4Runner's getting a little weak. Time for the 4Runner to come in the garage and get its own updates. Needs a timing belt and water pump as well. So fun for me. And that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Bye.